Whether you're a tech enthusiast, industry professional, or just curious about the future of AI Agents Unleashed will keep you informed and inspired. Buckle up and get ready to unleash the potential of AI.
All right, so let's dive into some cutting-edge research on AI and coding.
Okay.
You know how everyone's talking about these AI tools that can write code?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out they're not quite the magic bullet some make them out to be.
Right.
We've got research here that really puts those AI coding skills to the test.
It's true.
Yeah.
These large language models, or LLMs as they're called for short,
Okay.
they can definitely generate code,
Yeah.
but getting them to consistently create the right code
Right.
is a whole other challenge.
Okay.
And that's where prompt programming comes in.
Okay, so for those of us who haven't been living and breathing AI code,
Sure.
what exactly is prompt programming?
Think of it like giving an AI programmer
Okay.
very specific instructions, almost like a recipe for the code you want.
Got it.
These instructions, called prompts,
Okay.
help the LLM understand exactly what you need.
So it's not as simple as just saying, hey, AI,
Right.
write me a program that does X.
Yeah.
You actually need to speak the AI's language to get the results you want.
Exactly. And this research really dug deep into how different prompting techniques affect the quality of the code these LLMs produce.
Okay.
They tested a whole bunch of methods, like giving the AI a few examples of good code, asking it to think step by step,
Right.
even telling it to act like a specific kind of programmer.
So they were really trying to figure out the best way to talk to these AI programmers, huh?
Exactly.
And they tested this out on some of the big names in LLMs, right?
Right.
Okay.
They used GPT-4o,
Okay.
Llama 3, and Mistral,
Okay.
all popular LLMs.
Got it.
They ran over 7,000 code generation tasks,
Wow.
testing not only if the code worked,
Right.
but also how it compared to human-written code
Okay.
in terms of quality and style.
Okay, so let's get to the juicy stuff.
Sure.
What did they find?
Yeah.
Did these fancy prompting techniques make a huge difference?
Well, here's the first surprise. The impact was measurable, but not earth-shattering.
Okay.
The best prompting method only increased the chance of getting correct code
Okay.
by about 12%.
Wait, so all that effort for just a 12% boost?
Yeah.
That's not exactly the AI revolution I was expecting.
Right.
Does that mean these LLMs are already pretty good coders,
It seems so,
even without a lot of hand-holding?
which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But it also suggests that maybe we're reaching a point of diminishing returns with some of these techniques.
Okay.
The LLMs might already have a good grasp of the basics, even with simpler prompts.
That's both encouraging and a little unsettling.
Yeah.
But if more detailed instructions don't necessarily mean better code,
Right.
what else did the researchers uncover?
One of the most surprising findings was that sometimes
Yeah.
giving the AI too much information
Oh, really?
actually made the code worse.
Hold on, really?
Yeah.
How could that be?
Yeah.
I would think more information would always be helpful.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
For example,
Right.
telling the LLM which code libraries to use sometimes caused it to hallucinate,
Okay.
essentially making up functions that didn't exist
Wow.
and trying to import them.
So it's like the AI got overconfident and started going rogue?
Yeah.
Kind of like a student trying to sound smart
Right.
by using big words they don't fully understand?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It seems like finding the right level of detail is crucial.
Right.
Too little.
Yeah.
And the AI might miss crucial information, but too much.
Yeah.
And it might start making things up.
Right.
It's a delicate balance.
Okay, so it sounds like prompt programming is more art than science.
It is.
You can't just throw information at the AI and hope for the best.
Right.
You need to carefully curate what you tell it.
Exactly.
And that's not all.
Yeah.
The research also found a fascinating trade-off
Right.
between getting the code to work correctly and the quality of that code.
Interesting. Right.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this trade-off.
Some techniques.
Okay.
Like giving the AI a few examples of code or specifying the exact format of the input and output
Okay.
made it more likely to produce correct code.
Okay.
But that code was often more complex
Right.
and harder to read.
So it's like choosing between a car that's fast
Yeah.
but guzzles gas
Yeah.
and one that's slower but more fuel efficient.
Exactly.
You have to decide what's more important to you.
Precisely.
Okay.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
prompting techniques that emphasized clean code,
Oh.
like telling the LLM to act as a developer who prioritizes readability.
Got it.
Led to simpler code.
Okay.
But that code wasn't as good at passing all the tests.
So it's like the AI was playing it safe,
Yeah.
writing code that was technically sound,
Right.
but maybe not as effective at actually solving the problem.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
This really highlights the challenge
Yeah.
of finding the sweet spot in prompt programming.
Right.
We need to guide the AI towards creating code that is both correct and well-written,
Okay.
without stifling its ability to come up with creative solutions.
It's like teaching a brilliant but sometimes erratic student.
Right.
You want to give them enough structure to succeed,
Uh-huh.
but not so much that you crush their creativity.
Exactly.
And this brings us to one of the most intriguing findings of this research.
Okay.
The code generated by LLMs
Mm-hmm.
is generally simpler than human-written code.
Interesting, isn't it?
Simpler.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, that's a good
I
question.
mean, we always strive for simplicity in coding.
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It could mean that the AI,
Hi.
having learned from massive amounts of code,
Right.
has figured out how to avoid some of the unnecessary complexities
Yeah.
that humans often introduce.
So it's like the AI is saying, hey, humans, why are you making things so complicated?
Right.
I can do this in a much more straightforward way.
Right.
Okay?
But it could also mean that the AI is oversimplifying and missing some nuances
Okay.
that experienced human programmers pick up on. Things like handling edge cases or optimizing for performance.
So it's like comparing a novice cook following a recipe
Yeah.
to a master chef who can improvise and add those special touches that make a dish truly exceptional.
I like that analogy. And this is why ongoing research in this area is so important.
Right.
We need to understand not just how these LLMs are generating code, but also how that code compares to human-written code
Okay.
in terms of robustness, maintainability, and efficiency.
It's about making sure these powerful AI tools
Right.
are truly augmenting human capabilities
Right.
and not just churning out code that looks good on the surface,
Yeah.
but might crumble under pressure.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
But speaking of crumbling under pressure, this research also revealed some fascinating insights
Okay.
into the types of errors these LLMs make when they're writing code.
Ooh, spill the tea.
Uh-huh.
What kind of coding blunders are these supposedly brilliant AIs making?
Well, the most common one was the classic assertion error,
Okay.
meaning the code didn't actually do what it was supposed to do
Right.
according to the tests.
So the AI understood the instructions,
Right.
but messed up the execution.
Exactly.
Like it knew it had to bake a cake,
Yeah,
but ended up burning it.
exactly.
Okay.
And they also saw a lot of type errors.
Okay.
These happen when the AI misjudges the type of data it's working with.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
The AI knows something needs to go there,
Right.
but it doesn't quite grasp the shape of the data.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this is one area where prompt engineering can really help
Okay.
by clearly specifying the expected input and output types in our prompts. We can guide the AI towards making more informed decisions about data types.
It's like giving the AI a set of measuring cups and spoons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another common error was the attribute error.
Okay.
This means the AI tried to access a part of an object that doesn't exist,
Right.
like trying to open the glove compartment of a motorcycle.
Okay. That's a good one.
Uh-huh.
So even with all this fancy AI,
Yeah,
we're still seeing some pretty basic coding mistakes.
that's true.
Okay.
But remember,
Yeah.
this technology is still in its early stages
Right.
as these LLMs continue to evolve and we get better at guiding them.
Right.
These errors will likely become less frequent.
It's like teaching a kid to ride a bike.
Yeah.
There will be wobbles and falls at first,
Right.
but with practice and guidance, they eventually master it.
Exactly.
Who knows? Maybe someday these AI programmers will be teaching us a thing or two.
Now that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with visions of AI coding overlords, let's look at how these different prompting techniques actually affected the different LLMs.
Okay.
Because you mentioned earlier that not all LLMs responded the same way.
Right, because just like people,
Yeah.
each AI probably has its own quirks and preferences, right?
Exactly.
You-
For instance, they noticed that Llama 3 was particularly responsive to the chain of thought technique,
Okay.
where you walk the AI through the problem step by step.
So Llama 3 needs a bit more hand-holding,
It seems so.
a more structured approach to problem solving.
This highlights a crucial point.
Okay.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to prompt programming.
Right.
The best technique depends on the specific LLM you're using
Got it.
and the kind of code you're trying to generate.
It's like learning to communicate with different people.
Yeah,
Some people need you to be very direct,
right.
while others prefer a more subtle approach.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the same goes for these AI programmers.
Yeah.
We need to understand their strengths and weaknesses and tailor our prompts accordingly.
Okay. I'm starting to see how nuanced this whole prompt programming thing is.
Yeah.
But before we move on,
Okay.
I want to hear more about one technique in particular that caught my attention.
Sure.
Using personas in prompt programming.
Ah, yes. This is where it gets particularly interesting.
Because telling an AI to act like a specific type of programmer
Right.
opens up some really intriguing possibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The idea is that by giving the LLM a persona to embody, we can subtly influence its coding style and decision-making.
It's like giving the AI a role to play,
Yeah,
like an actor on stage.
I like that comparison.
And just as different actors bring their own interpretations to a role,
Right?
these AIs might bring their own unique spin to the persona.
And the researchers found that this persona technique did have an impact on the code the LLMs generated.
So did the AI actually start writing code that reflected the persona?
Well, the results were subtle,
Okay.
but definitely noticeable.
Okay.
For example, when the LLMs were told to act like a developer who follows best coding practices,
Right.
the code they generated was less likely to contain certain types of errors.
So it's like the AI was taking on the mindset of a seasoned programmer
Yeah,
who's meticulous about avoiding common pitfalls.
precisely.
This suggests that personas could be a valuable tool
Right.
for guiding these LLMs
Yeah,
towards generating code that not only works,
right.
but also meets specific quality standards.
Exactly.
And that's a really important point,
Yeah.
because it brings us to the question of whether we can use personas
Mm-hmm.
to instill certain values in these AI programmers.
Now that's a thought-provoking question.
Like, what if you told an LLM to act like a developer
Yeah.
who prioritizes user privacy
Yeah.
or accessibility?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we could successfully embed these values
Yeah.
into the AI's coding process,
Right.
it could have a huge impact on the software being created.
It's like baking social responsibility into the very DNA of the code.
Right.
Of course, there are challenges.
Right.
We need to be careful about how we define these personas
Mhm.
and develop ways to measure
Yeah.
whether the AI is truly adhering to the values we're trying to instill.
Because it's not enough to just tell the AI to act a certain way.
Yeah.
We need to be able to verify that it's actually putting those values into practice.
Exactly.
This is still a relatively new area of research,
It is.
but it has the potential to be incredibly impactful.
It certainly does.
And it seems we've only just scratched the surface of this fascinating and rapidly evolving field.
We have.
Okay.
And I think it's safe to say that the future of software development
Hmm.
will be deeply intertwined with the advancements in LLM technology
Right.
and our ability to harness their power
Right.
through techniques like prompt programming.
Absolutely well said.
Thanks.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
The fact that LMs tend to generate code that's simpler than human-written code.
Yes, that was one of the more intriguing findings.
Because it raises a fundamental question.
Mm.
Is simplicity always a virtue in coding?
That's a good question.
I mean, we strive for code that's elegant,
Right.
easy to understand,
Right.
but sometimes complexity is unavoidable
Right.
to create robust and feature-rich software.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The fact that LLMs tend towards simplicity
Right.
could be both a blessing and a curse.
Right.
It might help us identify areas where our code is unnecessarily convoluted,
Okay.
but it could also lead to oversimplification and missed nuances.
So it's like the AI is saying,
Yeah.
hey, I can solve this problem in a much simpler way.
Right.
Why make things so complicated?
Right.
But maybe there are good reasons for some of that complexity.
Precisely.
Right.
And this is where human oversight and judgment remain crucial.
Okay.
We need to weigh the trade-offs between simplicity and complexity
Yep.
and make informed decisions about the best approach
Got it.
for each situation.
So the human touch is still essential in the world of AI coding then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's about finding the right balance
Mm-hmm.
between leveraging the power of these AI tools
Right.
and applying our own experience and intuition
Yeah.
to guide them towards creating truly exceptional code.
Well said.
Thanks.
Now, before we take a break,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to ponder.
All right.
As AI code generation becomes more sophisticated,
Mm-hmm.
what role will human programmers play?
Yeah.
Will we become more like architects
Mm.
or conductors
Yeah.
guiding the AI rather than writing every line of code ourselves?
That's a great question to reflect on because ultimately the power of these AI tools lies not only in their ability to generate code, but also in our ability to guide them towards creating the kind of software we want to see in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive
Okay.
into the world of prompt programming and code generation.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
All right. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of prompt programming and code generation.
Yeah, before we went to the next part, we were discussing the fascinating finding
Yeah.
that LLMs often write code that's simpler than what human programmers create.
It's true. It's one of the more interesting aspects of all this.
And we left our listeners with a question to ponder.
Right.
What would the perfect prompt for an AI programmer be?
Right?
It's interesting to think about how we can shape these AI tools with the right instructions.
It really gets to the core of what we're trying to do here,
Yeah.
As we've seen, prompt programming goes beyond just giving orders.
Right.
It's about molding the AI's understanding of the task and steering its coding style.
It's almost like being a teacher or mentor,
Yeah.
You guide your student to
Right.
hone their skills and reach their full potential.
That's a great way to put it. Just as a good teacher adapts their approach to each student's needs,
Right.
we need to develop prompt programming techniques that work with the strengths and weaknesses of each individual LLM.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of prompt programming.
Okay.
What should we consider when crafting those perfect prompts?
Well, clarity is paramount.
Okay.
Our prompts must be crystal clear and easy for the LLM to grasp.
Right.
We also need to consider the LLM's context window.
Okay.
Think of it as the AI's short-term memory,
Got it.
the amount of information it can juggle at once.
So it's like writing a concise and well-organized essay
Yeah,
that stays within a strict word count.
exactly.
Okay.
Another key factor is providing the right amount of detail.
Right.
As we discussed earlier, sometimes overloading the AI with information can backfire.
Right. It's like trying to cram for an exam by memorizing every single fact and figure.
Right.
You might miss the big picture and end up confused.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We need that Goldilocks zone. Enough information for the LLM to understand the problem,
Right.
but not so much that it stifles the AI's own creativity and problem solving.
Finding that sweet spot between guidance and freedom sounds crucial.
It is.
It seems like there's a real art to crafting these prompts.
There is.
Yeah.
And beyond the clarity and detail, we also need to think about the structure and flow of the prompt.
So it's not just about the words we use, but
Yeah.
also how we arrange them
Yeah,
in a logical and compelling way.
exactly.
Okay.
Imagine you're writing a captivating story.
Okay.
There's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
You introduce characters,
Mm-hmm.
set the scene, and build towards a satisfying resolution.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah,
So if we picture the LLM as the main character in our coding story,
right.
what are the key elements we need to weave into our prompts?
First, we need to clearly state the goal.
Okay.
What's the LLM's mission?
Yeah.
What are we asking it to accomplish?
That's the call to action in our coding adventure.
Precisely.
Okay.
Next, we need to provide some background information,
Right.
some context.
Okay.
This could be details about the software, the users,
Right.
any relevant technical specs. It's like painting a picture for the LLM,
Yeah.
giving it a sense of the world it's working in.
It's like setting the stage for the AI to work its magic.
Exactly. And then comes the heart of the story,
Okay.
the specific problem we want the LLM to solve.
Right.
This is where we lay out the nuts and bolts of the code we need.
It's like handing the LLM a set of blueprints
Yes.
and saying, all right, build this.
And as we've discussed,
Yeah.
we can use those techniques like few-shot learning, chain of thought prompting,
Okay.
and personas to guide the LLM's approach.
It's like giving the AI a toolbox filled with specialized tools and techniques.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And finally,
Yeah.
we need to be very specific about the desired output, what programming language, what coding style.
Okay.
Do we have any specific conventions the code needs to follow?
It's like adding the finishing touches,
Exactly.
making sure the code is polished and ready to go.
By carefully considering these narrative elements,
Right.
we can craft prompts that are more likely to coax the desired results from the LLM.
It's like becoming a master storyteller.
Well said.
weaving together words and code to create something functional and elegant.
And speaking of elegance,
Yeah?
let's talk about code readability.
Okay.
Even if the code works perfectly,
Right.
it's no good if other programmers can't understand it.
Right, because we're not just writing code for machines to execute.
Right.
We're writing it for other humans to read, understand, and work with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where prompt programming comes in again.
Okay.
Techniques like those personas and the chain of thought prompting
Right.
can encourage the LLM to produce code that's not only correct,
Okay.
but also easy to read and maintain.
It's like teaching the LLM to write code that's not just functional,
Yeah.
but beautiful, almost like a work of art.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
This is an area where human programmers still have a bit of an edge.
Right.
We have an innate understanding of what makes code readable,
Right.
that sixth sense for clean code.
Because we're not just thinking about how the code works,
Right.
but also how other people will interact with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's where code style comes in.
Go ahead.
Every programmer has their own unique style, like a signature.
Right.
It's that set of preferences and conventions that make their code distinct.
It's like handwriting.
Yeah.
You can often recognize someone's handwriting,
Right.
even if you haven't seen it in years.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And just as we can train ourselves to write more legibly,
Okay.
we can also train LLMs to adopt specific coding styles.
So we could tell an LLM to write code in the style of a particular programmer or
Yeah.
team.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting.
This could be incredibly valuable for large projects
Right.
where you need consistency across the code base.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine having an AI assistant
Yeah.
that seamlessly blends their coding style with yours,
Right.
making it feel like you're working together as a true team.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
It's like having an AI apprentice learning your ways
Right.
and becoming a valuable part of your workflow.
Exactly.
As LLMs continue to evolve,
Yeah.
we can expect even more sophisticated techniques for shaping their coding style to match our own. It's like having a personal AI coding guru,
Right.
always ready to offer a helping hand.
Speaking of workflows,
Yeah.
let's talk about how prompt programming is actually being used in real-world projects.
Okay.
It's one thing to discuss these techniques in theory,
Right.
but seeing them in action is a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How are developers actually using these tools?
One common use case is code completion.
Okay.
As you're typing,
Mm-hmm.
the LLM can suggest completions
Right.
based on the context of your code. It's like having an autocomplete feature that's been supercharged with AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with prompt programming,
Yeah.
we can fine-tune those suggestions to match our coding style and project requirements.
Okay.
It goes beyond just completing words or phrases.
Right.
It's about understanding the intent behind the code.
So it's not just about saving a few keystrokes.
Right.
It's about making the coding process smarter and more efficient.
Precisely.
Okay.
Another exciting use case is generating code from natural language descriptions.
Okay.
Imagine describing what you want your code to do in plain English,
Right.
and the LLM writes it for you.
That sounds almost like magic.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Is that really possible?
It's becoming more and more realistic
Right.
with the advances in LLM technology and prompt programming.
Okay.
For instance, you could describe a function that sorts a list of numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and the LLM would generate the code.
Wow. That would save so much time and effort.
It would.
It's like having an AI translator.
That speaks both human language and code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Prompt programming is bridging the gap
Right.
between how we think and how machines understand instructions.
And as that communication becomes more seamless,
Right.
we can expect LLMs to play an even bigger role in software development.
Absolutely.
And it goes beyond just writing code.
Yeah.
Think about tasks like debugging,
Right.
testing,
Wow.
and even documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Prompt programming can help automate and streamline those processes too.
So it's not just about automating the coding itself,
Right.
but also about making us more efficient and effective programmers overall.
Precisely. LLMs have the potential to fundamentally change how we build software.
They do.
And prompt programming is the key to unlocking that potential.
Couldn't agree more.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
It seems like we're on the verge of a real paradigm shift in the world of software development.
We are.
And while we're on the topic of significant shifts,
Okay.
I think it's time we address something that's been generating a lot of buzz lately.
Okay.
The ethics of AI-generated code.
That's an important topic.
As AI becomes more powerful and integrated into our lives,
Right.
we have to make sure it's being used responsibly.
Exactly.
So what are some of the ethical considerations we need to be mindful of
Yeah.
when using LLMs for code generation?
Well, for one thing, there's the issue of bias.
Right.
If these LLMs are trained on data sets that contain biased code,
Right.
they might inadvertently perpetuate those biases in the code they generate.
That's right. For example, if an LLM was mainly trained on code written by a certain demographic,
Right?
it might generate code that subtly disadvantages other groups.
Yeah.
This could have real-world consequences,
Yeah, it could.
especially if the code is used in applications that make decisions affecting people's lives,
It's true.
like hiring algorithms or
Yeah.
loan approval systems.
Right.
We need to be incredibly careful about the data sets used to train these LLMs and make sure they represent the diversity of programmers out there.
I completely agree.
We also need to consider intellectual property.
Right.
If an LLM creates code
Yeah.
that's nearly identical to existing copyrighted code,
Right.
who owns the rights to that new code?
That's a tricky one.
It is.
The LLM isn't intentionally copying the code.
Right.
It's simply learned from the data it was trained on.
Right.
This brings up some complex legal and ethical questions
Right.
we're still figuring out.
It does. And this is where collaboration between tech experts,
Yes.
legal professionals,
Mm-hmm.
and ethicists will be crucial.
I agree.
We need to balance protecting intellectual property
Yeah.
with fostering innovation
Right.
and making AI-generated code accessible to everyone.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
And we can't forget about the potential for misuse.
Yeah. That's a big one.
What if someone uses an LLM
Yeah.
to create harmful code,
Right.
like a virus or a hacking tool?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It's just like any powerful tool. Right.
LLMs can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
It's crucial to have safeguards in place to prevent them from being used for malicious purposes.
So we need ways to detect and mitigate harmful code.
Yes, we do.
And we need to educate developers about the ethical implications
Yeah,
of using LLMs.
definitely.
It's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about using it responsibly.
Absolutely.
And we can't ignore the broader societal impact
Right.
as LLMs become more capable.
Yeah,
There's a risk they could displace human programmers from their jobs.
that's true. Automation has always had its benefits and challenges.
It has. We need to be aware of the potential impact on the workforce
Right.
and create opportunities for people to adapt to the changing landscape of software development.
Yeah,
It's not just about the tech, but also about how it affects people's lives.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Ethical considerations must be at the forefront of our minds
A must.
as we explore the possibilities of AI-generated code. Well said. It seems like we've barely scratched the surface of this topic.
We have. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
But it's a conversation we need to keep having
Right.
as this technology evolves.
Absolutely.
Now, before we go on to the last part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to return to this idea of prompt programming as a form of communication.
Okay.
It's more than just giving commands.
Yeah.
It's about building a dialogue with the LLM,
Right.
understanding how it interprets and responds to our prompts.
You're right. It's like learning a new language.
Yeah.
One that allows us to tap into the immense knowledge and capabilities of these AI tools.
And as we become more fluent in this language,
Right.
we can expect to see even more creative and groundbreaking uses of LLMs,
Yeah.
not just in software development, but across various fields.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Now, in the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we'll explore some of the exciting trends and future directions in the world of prompt programming and code generation.
Okay.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring this fascinating world of prompt programming and code generation,
Yeah, it's been a great discussion.
seeing how these powerful AI tools are changing the game for software development.
They really are.
We've learned how prompt programming allows us to talk to these LLMs,
Right.
guiding them to write code that's not only functional,
Mm.
but also easy to read, maintain,
Yeah.
and even aligned with ethical considerations.
It's amazing how far this field has come.
But as with any groundbreaking technology,
Right.
there are hurdles to overcome
Yeah.
and exciting new possibilities to explore.
Lots to talk about.
So for this last leg of our journey, let's look ahead
Yeah.
and talk about emerging trends and the future of prompt programming.
One trend I'm really enthusiastic about is the development of more specialized LLMs,
Okay.
ones that are experts in specific areas.
So instead of those general purpose LLMs
Yeah.
that are like jack of all trades programmers,
Exactly.
we're talking about AI that are specialists in certain domains.
We've been discussing those general purpose LLMs
Right.
that can handle various tasks in programming languages.
Right.
But imagine training an LLM on a massive data set of medical records and research.
Okay, yeah.
It could potentially write code for medical diagnosis tools
Wow.
or even drug discovery applications.
Okay.
Things far beyond what we can create today.
That's amazing.
It is.
It's like having an AI colleague
Yeah,
who's not just a coder, but a specialist in their field,
exactly.
bringing valuable insights to the table.
Precisely. And this move towards specialization is already happening.
Oh, right.
We're seeing LLMs specifically designed for natural language processing,
Okay.
image recognition,
Wow.
and even composing music.
The AI world is starting to reflect the specialized roles we see in human professions.
It is. It's really fascinating.
And as this trend continues, we can expect these LLMs to become even more powerful
Right.
and integrated into specific fields.
Absolutely. Another exciting development is the rise of low-code and no-code platforms that use LLMs to open up software development to a much wider audience.
So people with little to no coding experience
Yeah.
could create their own applications using visual interfaces
Yeah.
and drag and drop tools.
Exactly. It's similar to those website builders
Okay.
that let you create a website without knowing HTML or CSS.
Right.
And LLMs are becoming a key part of these platforms.
No. Yeah.
They offer intelligent suggestions,
Right.
automate repetitive tasks,
Mhm.
and even generate code in the background.
This could be huge for businesses and individuals who need custom software,
It could.
but don't have the resources to hire a whole development team.
It could truly democratize software development,
Yeah.
empowering anyone with a good idea to bring it to life.
It's an exciting time for innovation.
It is.
Now, another trend I'm closely watching is the development of more interactive and collaborative prompt programming tools.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So instead of just typing in a prompt and getting code back,
Right.
we'll be able to have a back and forth conversation with the LLM,
Mhm.
refining the code as we go.
Precisely imagine being able to ask the LLM clarifying questions,
Okay.
propose alternative solutions,
Yeah.
or even have it explain its reasoning behind specific code choices.
It's like having a coding buddy who's always available and never gets tired of your questions.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
This type of interactive prompt programming
Mm-hmm.
could usher in a more collaborative and human-centered approach to software development.
So humans and AI working together as a team, each bringing their strengths to the table.
Exactly.
That's a powerful vision. Where do you see this all heading in terms of research?
That's a good question.
What breakthroughs are on the horizon?
One promising area is developing techniques
Okay.
to teach LLMs how to understand and reason about code
Okay.
at a much deeper level.
So instead of just pattern matching and generating code,
Right.
we're talking about LLMs that can grasp the underlying logic and purpose behind the code. So
Exactly.
these LLMs would be able to analyze code,
Yeah.
spot potential bugs,
Right.
and even suggest improvements.
It's like having a super intelligent code reviewer,
Wow.
constantly looking over your shoulder,
Yeah.
offering insights and catching errors.
This deeper code understanding could lead to a whole new wave of software development tools
It could.
that are more powerful, intuitive, and aligned with how humans think.
It's like we're moving from AI as a simple tool
Yeah.
to AI as a genuine partner in the creative process.
Well said.
Thanks.
As this partnership between humans and AI grows,
Right.
we can expect software that's not only more complex and advanced,
Mm-hmm.
but also more human-centered and aligned with our values and goals.
I agree. It's an exciting time to be involved in software development.
It really is an exciting time.
It is.
What a journey this has been.
It has. I hope our listeners found this deep dive as fascinating and thought-provoking as we did.
Me too.
The world of prompt programming and code generation is full of possibilities.
It is.
And we've only just begun to explore its potential.
Absolutely. And to our listeners,
Yeah.
as you continue exploring this exciting and rapidly changing landscape,
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind that question we posed earlier.
Yeah.
If you could design the perfect prompt for an AI programmer, what would it be?
That's the question, isn't
What
it?
kind of code would you unleash upon the world?
I like that.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.